right. Welcome, everybody. I'll bring to order the small GR Commission meeting, October 3rd, 2024 at noon. I'd like to welcome everybody. This commission provides input on parking and mobility-related activities and programs to market staff and makes recommendations to the city commission on policies related to these activities. You will have two opportunities where you can provide comments. One, you can comment related to items on our agenda during the first public comment period. And then at the end of the meeting, you can provide general comments. We are not able to respond to your comments directly, but we are listening. And we use your feedback to inform our decisions. So, thank you. Roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Josh Lumber.
Here.
Kevin Wesseling.
Here.
Craig Clark.
Here.
Drew Robbins.
Here.
Deborah Ninehouse. Here. Rich Wynn.
Here.
Chris Mathis.
Here.
Laura Sands. Here. Ed Kentmeyer is excused. Lisa Haynes is excused. Chad Patton.
Here.
Carolina Rizal is excused. And Stefan Polwater.
All right, great. First order of business are the approval of the minutes from August 1st, 2024 that were in our packets. Are there any comments or corrections to be made? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve. Support. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. At this time, I'll open the floor to public comment on the agenda items. We'd appreciate having members of the public attending the meeting today to identify yourselves. However, it's not required to enter your name. Anyone in the audience who'd like to step forward? All right, seeing none. I'll close the public comment period. We'll go to action items. We have none. Discussions.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jessica Smith, and I am the Mobile GR Director. I just want to welcome you all today. And if I have not met you yet, I'd like to meet you after the meeting and say hi. I've been here 100 days now, and we have a stacked agenda for you on our discussion items. I want to remind you all there is a microphone probably every other seat. Please use those when you're speaking up, and just let us know that you're there. It's easier for us to grab what you're saying on the recording to help out with the minutes. So it's also helpful for folks that are joining us here today. So I wanted to give a quick overview of what I've learned in my first 100 days about what is Mobile GR. And I hope this is valuable and maybe learn a little something new today. And I really hope you have some questions at the end too. I've got a lot of our staff is here today, our leadership team at Mobile GR. Sitting in the audience, and so I've got a plethora of folks that can answer questions if it's something that I don't know yet. So Mobile GR, we're the City of Grand Rapids Transportation and Mobility Department, and what we're looking to do is to provide a safe, reliable, affordable, and diverse transportation option to the cities to support the city's goals. There are a couple of goals that are really important to use as our North Star at Mobile GR, and that's particularly economic development and quality of life. So Mobile GR really operates quite a few facilities of different types. We operate mostly in the parking facilities, and then we have some other ongoing programs that I'll chat with you about in a minute. We also oversee all of the signals for all of Kent County and part of Ottawa County. So other things that are really important, things for Mobile GR to pay attention to are things like social justice, transportation equity, economic development, as I mentioned before, and just understanding that transportation is really something that helps us succeed as a community and helps individuals succeed in their daily life. And we really want to work together with you all and members of our community to improve this quality of life by helping people use active transportation and other modes out there to help them reach their goals in life. So first of all, who are we? Derek, you can go on. Thank you. Who are we? So Mobile GR, your staff specifically at the city department, is over 700 full-time, or sorry, 70 full-time employees. Sometimes it feels like 700. 70 full-time employees and about 40 temporary employees or part-time employees. Most of those folks live in parking operations. Those are your parking facilities attendants, the folks that are at booths and are at our lots that are working during special events. And we also have two other portions of our staff which are contracted, and that's our security staff. And also we have a contractor for maintaining bus stops. We do some bus stop cleanup around the Dash bus stops. And that happens 5 days a week. Everything else is the 24/7 operations. And what you're seeing up here, and it's a little bit difficult to see, but we've sent out this presentation for you all to take a look at, is what you have is the city manager, of course, oversees everyone, and he has a deputy city manager, Kate Behrens. I report directly to Kate, and then I have two assistant directors. I have Jennifer Casper, who oversees parking operations, and then I have on the other side, I have Ariane Jesky, who is our city traffic engineer. Under Ariana's side of the house, she oversees those traffic signals, operations and maintenance, transportation engineering, and then a group called mobility planning and policy, which you hear a lot from mobility and policy because they're kind of this research and development side of our house. And the other far right side, which is Jennifer's sitting right over there. And Jennifer oversees, we have both on-street and off-street operations. So those off-street operations are any sort of surface parking lots, and then also our curbside operations, which is what you would think of as street parking. And then in the middle there, you're seeing folks that support us every single day across the department, and that's your information technology. We gotta have the folks like Colin here in the back and Derek who are taking care of our IT today and our audio. And then we have business services, which is the folks that you'll talk to when you pick up the phone to talk about your monthly parking pass. They take care of all of that and all of our accounting. And then communications and outreach, and that's our friend Max, who's also back there somewhere, and we'll speak with you a little bit more about what he does later. Okay, Derek, let's go on. So you all are here, and you're a big part of what we do. 13 members of this commission, and your purpose is really to be an advisory group for us to assist us in that work from a broader perspective. You all bring very valuable conversation starters. You bring perspectives from representatives of the community at large, and we really appreciate the wealth of knowledge and perspective that we have here with you all. So you all probably remember this, but you were appointed by City Commission, and you have a term that begins the first Monday in January, and we don't hold a January meeting, so you usually end up here in February. Typically, we don't have a January meeting. So again, you guys are a nice, diverse selection of folks from the city that help balance the mobility and parking services and interests. And then your membership can also include a group of the City Commission, and we have Commissioner Drew Robbins here that does that for us. So I want to show you a really big picture on the next slide of our budget. You probably got a budget presentation that was full and detailed in June, and that was right before I got here. I got here June 24th. And so this is just a reminder of what we look like. So our expenditures and our revenue, pretty balanced. And what you can see on the expenditure side is we spend most of our money over in personnel. And then you have another, not most of it, but you have 30% of it goes to personnel, that big purple pie. And then you just look down at that little light blue portion, and that's within that capital. So what we spend on those capital projects. The bright green, the kind of big slice over there, is contractual services and things that kind of fall in there. And then those little smaller slices are just facilities and fleet supplies, those types of things to kind of run the business side of Mobile GR. The revenue over there, and as you notice, we're revenue a little bit higher than our expenditure. We like that. We want to run in the black. We are an enterprise fund. That's the goal. And the biggest pie that you see where revenue comes from is off-street parking. So that's your parking ramps. And then other things, we have some funding share from the Major Streets Act. On-street parking is the 12% green that you see right there, kind of the top. And then we've got some signal maintenance revenue. What that is we have a revenue share with other cities that we, and from DOT, for the traffic signals that we help take care of, and that's what that little piece is. And then the other things are just kind of some different federal grants, general fund, parking fines, but we have a little piece of that comes to us. Any questions on that? I know London's always a big fun topic. Good, because that's all I know. All right. So really big picture infrastructure responsibilities that we have is we have over 700 signals that we take care of in Ottawa and Kent County, and we have over 40,000 signs. Craig takes care of, I'm sorry, not Craig. Zach takes care of those signs. Where are you at, Zach? There he is. He knows where all of the signs are, right? Every single one. And then we have 9 parking ramps, 15 surface parking lots. Those ramps and surface parking lots are taken care of by my friend Aaron over here. And then we have tons and tons of on-street parking spaces. I say so many because we've been trying to count them, and we're working hard on it, and we're just not going to be done. So I'll be really excited knowing that number is. One of the things that makes it kind of hard to count how many on-street parking spaces that you have at any given time is it can fluctuate, right? When a road is updated, maybe we pull out, a parking space and we go away to provide for more of a pedestrian infrastructure at an intersection, or maybe there's just something going on that you need to shift the number of parking spaces back. So we are counting those, and I'll let you know when I know. Some of the highlighted projects. Now, this is not a total list of everything that we're doing, but I wanted to give you some highlights. So the Line Access Program is something that we'll chat more about with you later. It was a 90-day pilot where we subsidized 100% of the cost for Lime users that were eligible, and they had to go through an application process. We'll talk more about that later. I have something that's specifically that is their specialty. So that was something that we worked on for 90 days. We just finished it up, and then we're working with McGill University to help us with that study. And it's going to be kind of exciting for y'all to learn more about that in the coming months. We also just took care of, we're working on regional traffic system communications updates. So what that means is that we used to, with Kentwood and Wyoming, I believe were the 2 cities, their traffic signals didn't talk to our equipment. So if something was out, like a light went out or it went flashing red and wasn't supposed to, it would be like a phone call. Okay, this is happening, and you call dispatch, and we would call traffic signals folks, and then they would go out and take care of it. So now we're updating the system so that they can all talk to us. And Matt is the fellow that takes care of that. He's back over here. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that was kind of a cool thing. It seems like a small thing, but it was a big deal, and it's going to really help speed things along by giving us information faster to get out there and help those things. We have 60 bus shelter installations that we're working on, and they will all be ADA compliant when they go in there, and that's really important to make sure that everything is accessible to everyone. Some big maintenance items. We're doing some elevator upgrades over in the ramp. Yes, checking with Jennifer, and then also we have some technology that we're working on to improve customer service experience with some of our parking services. EV charging stations. If people notice those keep popping up in town, that is us. We're working on those, and that is overseen by our traffic engineering and policy department, and Erin is in the back, and she's overseeing that project. There's also about 12 rapid flashing beacons for pedestrians. Those are the things that you see kind of over near the DeVos Center. It's on the middle of the road, it flashes. We've got those about 12 a year going on, and that's pretty speedy because you guys have 2 traffic engineers on staff and they oversee that project. All right, so a couple of the services that we offer as a department for the whole city, and that's on this next slide. Meter reservations. That's when you see a meter bagged and it says no parking here. We do those for different reasons, special events, that kind of things. Of course, you can get a monthly parking pass in many of our facilities. We have special event parking management. Those are the folks that's Zach's office again, down with all the signs. He also takes those barriers out there and helps close down streets for festivals and things. And we work with parking special events to do that. Temporary traffic control. We oversee every time someone's working in the right of way for the city. So if Consumers Energy needs to leave up the road and do something with their things, we coordinate that road closure. And then there's active transportation planning and design. We're really taking care of bike lanes and sidewalks and that kind of design, and we're looking at how that works in a greater system, and the traffic team takes care of that. And the planning side of that is a lot of the things that are in Even Houses group does. Again, that group that you hear a lot from. Traffic signal maintenance and repair, as I said before, we do that all over Kane County and part of Ottawa. And then we have a 24/7 courtesy service where if you have a flat tire in one of our lots or one of our ramps, we actually go out and help you. And then we have 24/7 security and dispatch. Those are the folks that will come out and help you when you need it. All right, so finally we have some community-based programs. And this is things like the Dash Bus, the shared micromobility fleet, those lines of bikes and scooters, which we're going to have a little bit more conversation about later. We do neighborhood traffic calming. There's also residential parking permit zone management. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in more depth, and then also our ongoing safety outreach and education. I don't want to steal Trent's thunder too much on micromobility on the next slide, but micromobility is one of those things that's super cool here. We have over 4,000 rides a year, 400,000 rides a year, 1,600 devices in our fleet. That's half bikes and half scooters, and we have 300 designated parking zones. Those little white boxes you see that say park here, and the bike will blink at you if you don't park in the right spot. And then also the Dash service, which is 7 days a week, comes every 15 minutes, and it's like a cool pink bus. I do want to point out for you real quick on the Dash and the next slide. We just updated the commission on strategic measures. I know this is real small, but you see where there's red? That is strategic measures that we didn't meet the metric, and one of them is landing on the Dash. It's saying that we had about 12% less ridership on the Dash than we had year over year. So if you go to the next slide for me, Eric, I want to show you why it's red. So the line that you see that's bright red is 2024. And if you see in January, this is our daily ridership. It keeps going up since January. And the pink line is 2023, so that's what we're comparing to. And if you'll see in June 2023, you see how it drops really significantly, the light pink line. What happened is we weren't able to offer Monday and Tuesday service. So what's happening is that in January of this past year, we put back Monday and Tuesday service and went 7 days a week. So what you're seeing is an uptick in daily ridership over this year versus that steep downtick in last year when we dropped that Monday, Tuesday service. So when we start to compare year over year from this year to next year, I anticipate that it's going to keep going up so that our ridership is going up. On the right side, that graph is showing monthly ridership. And so starting in January this year, we had over 20,000 rides. And in July, the last month of data that I got right now, in July, I had over 37,000 rides. So you see it is going up this year with that Monday, Tuesday service out back. So I just want to let you all be aware of that in case you have any questions about, are we losing ridership on the Dash? Nope, we're actually doing better year over year, but we did lose 2 days of service for a period of time. Okay, one more thing, what's next? So we're working on AV car share, more on that later. We've got the Lime Access Equity Program outcomes, more on that later. And then also we're working on a parking investment strategy, and that is to really look at what is going on with our parking inventory and how can we do better, and what is a strategic investment moving forward in parking, and what does that look like, particularly in areas where we're gaining really big attractors like the amphitheater downtown. So that's what that is to help guide next steps. Transportation demand management, there's a lot with transportation demand management, and we're just in the infancy of figuring out what that policy looks like, how we can engage with community partners on that. There's so many different elements, but a lot of them are tied to our community master plan, which is being in the final steps of approval right now with the commission. And we're really working with our regional partners at Grand Valley Metro Council, or GVMC, to do our part in building out the regional TDM strategy that they've been putting together. So again, more on that later, and that's on your horizon. And then we're getting ready to start our 2026 fiscal year budget prep, which I know Commissioner Robbins is really excited about. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring you all along and keep you informed all the time. Okay, that was more than anyone should ever have had to learn in 100 days. But if you have any questions.
I think it would be interesting to give the ARC prize ridership. Because the Dash did change its route. I think it was more conducive to one, the museums, hotels, and tourism, but also to accommodate, I think, the enterprise better. So hopefully.
Are you saying you'd like to see what it looked like those few weeks for archives
Yeah.
compared to the
Well, in September,
Mhm.
it's 3 weekends.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure, you bet, we can look at that. What else are you thinking about?
Will we do a ridership survey to see? Sorry. Will we do a ridership survey to see, give idea of unique riders, who's using it, who's obviously not using it, if we want to try to figure out what's your barrier, and some of the purposes to kind of test where things are going and maybe some of the opportunities in. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so, we are doing a writer survey, and Erin's gonna, can she answer your question?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm still living as our Dash service copies on Vision. I'm gonna tell him he's not allowed to miss any more local during commission meetings, because I know you're really excited about the Dash data. But he is working on another intercept survey that we'll do directly with Dash riders. If you guys have any specific feedback on, outcomes that you'd like to hear from them, we're still in the development process with that. We can bring that back here as well.
Good questions. What else?
Okay, great question. Excuse me. You mentioned the soccer stadium coming in. Is there any anticipation of what that ride share is going to look like going forward? Will there be paying for parking, boosting by more scooters? Like, is there anything that we, I guess, can learn based on what you anticipate knowing what's coming?
Let me see if I understand. You're chatting about the scooter and bike share and the impact maybe the soccer stadium, or
Correct.
how to respond
Correct.
specifically with
Correct.
so with the soccer stadium, it's still in development what that looks like and what's gonna happen, right? And so we're working together, the city is working together, we're working with planning and engineering and anyone else that needs to be involved as that project works its way through different systems. I don't have a specific good answer for what you're asking, but I think it's a really good observation and I'll keep that in mind.
I mean, I've seen some commentary online. I've seen some commentary online, social media and whatnot, and one of the concerns that I've seen people ask about is, how will this impact my neighborhood? How will this impact parking on my street? What about, this parking garage down the street from me, et cetera? So that's what I'm curious to know, where is that headed? Is that being thought of now, X amount of time in advance? And what are the precautions that are being taken? And there more parking being added? Are there 1,000 new scooters going to be put on the street? Or dash hours going to change? Whatever that may look like.
Sure. All of those are really great questions. At this time, we're not quite ready to kind of have that bigger conversation, but I love where you're going with that, and I hear what you're saying. We'd like to know how that's been developed and if you're thinking of all these fabulous things. So I think that's a better conversation a little bit further down the line, but thank you for bringing that up. And those are all things that we do need to think about as we have any new development, any big impactful development like that. So thank you so much.
Great. Nice presentation.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Sorry about that. I don't know why today that's happening.
All right, good afternoon, commissioners. I am Max Gillis, Communication and Outreach Agent for the department, and I'm here once again to talk to you about social media. So I apologize for doing that. In the future, we'll probably have some more conversation about more traditional engagement that we do, because we are doing things like letters and community meetings and more traditional outreach, but just wanted to kind of go over a little bit.
Committed to us?
Yeah, exactly right. I'll live stream that. So generally, this is more of a high-level view. We've talked in the past about kind of the strategy behind the creation of the content, and this is looking a little bit more at the purpose of why we're trying to be a little bit more innovative and proactive in our social media than other departments and other transportation organizations across the country, and just kind of talking about why we're doing that and what our goals are and what kind of we're looking out of it. So first, like pretty much everything we're trying to do here, especially when we're trying to do something new or we're looking at the city nowadays. And this ties to pretty much all of them, although I think it ties to others more than some of them. But first, accountability is a really great thing when it comes to public engagement, and it's really difficult to do when you're having tons of one-on-one conversations or community meetings. You don't want to record those; you want those to be private for a reason, but it's hard to be accountable because you can't document that. And that's one great way that social media does allow for accountability. Every conversation, every engagement that we have is documented by us and saved, but it's obviously public and publicly available to be reviewed. So it's a great way for the community to hold us accountable. Oftentimes, we'll link me back to the things that I've said, and I can explain it in talks. I think it's a great way to be transparent with the community. And collaboration is another great reason that I think it's important for us to be on social media. It allows for us to constantly collaborate and interact with the community. And that's part of the proactiveness that I talked about before, that I think what we're doing is pretty unique. Even across the country, where we go into news articles, we go into communities that are publicly open for us and make sure that we're respecting those communities well. We're able to talk and answer questions, and they say things like, well, this doesn't make sense. How is this funded? Or why are they even doing this? And we can go in there and talk to folks and explain our point of view and hear their questions and hear their feedback. So that's a really great way we're able to collaborate with a wide variety of different communities. And that leads to equity. I think this is a great way for us to interact with communities that we've never been able to reach before, even if we're just talking about communities like people who don't like to come to public meetings. So there's just a wide variety of things that I think or a wide variety of groups that are excluded by the more traditional ways that city interacts with the community. Whether it's sending out letters or having these community meetings or going to community events and talk to folks, this is just one way that we can try to be as equitable as possible and reach as many people as we can. That leads to innovation, which just the very nature of social media is constantly, you have to focus on innovation, it's constantly changing. In 2021 we launched, we were on Facebook, platform formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram, and now we're on Reddit, TikTok, YouTube. So we've been innovative and joined the new platforms and try to engage as many people as we can. And that goes along with customer service, the collaboration part. We answer as many questions as we can. We're looking at answering roughly 300 plus comments a week. And that's a lot of those is copy and paste, so it's not like super, it's some of them are very simple, and that's across the 6 platforms. But we try very hard to interact with the community and be good customer service. And then sustainability is probably a bit of a reach, but you could argue we're not doing as much print materials, we're not creating a lot of things in the digital space, so I think we save a little bit there. So I can go to the next slide. So our goals are pretty similar to the values that I just mentioned. So we have basically an audience is really important, and it's really difficult on social media to reach a broad audience. And a lot of that is because there's so much noise, there's so much information out there. So one of the goals when we often want to interact with the community is make sure we are able to interact with the community. So building a followership base, finding communities that we folks are okay with us coming in and speaking to them, like on the news comments, like on places like Reddit and other like neighborhood association boards and other things where they're okay with us coming in and talking. So I think finding and identifying an audience and building that audience is constantly something that we're working towards improving. So that's a huge goal for us. And we also do a lot of paid advertisements or paid messaging, which helps us expand that audience and goal. Looking at targeting, mostly around geographic targeting. And then relationships is another big one. And this is a huge part of social media that I think is really invaluable as a city organization. I mentioned we do those 300 comments, probably like 15 or so of those a week are real long conversations with people. And sometimes it's the same folks, but a lot of times it's unique. And we're really able to deep dive and have a long conversation, similar to a really good one you may have at a community meeting with someone who's saying scooter and bike share program is really cool, we really like it here, but then you say, I can't stand this program, I think it doesn't help anybody, I don't think anything about it. And just going back and forth with someone and just having an open conversation often leads to a relationship that's built. They may not love the program at the end, but I feel like they feel heard, we can say, we're listening to you, this is the reasons, and they just kind of understand things more. So those kind of smaller conversations happen on social media. They happen on boards that are seen by lots of different people, so other people see those conversations happen, and I think it's really good to have one of our goals be to build those sort of relationships with community online. And then information is a goal for us in multiple different ways. One is we want to inform folks about the work that we're doing. We think it's important. We think it's cool, but we also want to hear what people think about it, so we are able to get feedback. And then we want to correct misinformation. And I think that is probably one of the biggest things about social media that's seen as a negative right now. There's a lot of misinformation being spread, and that's spread around. That's part of our proactive approach of going into don't want to pick up too much of news articles, and often have a lot of comments where they're speaking about the topic without a lot of expertise and background. And that's totally okay, but we just want to make sure our voice is also part of that conversation. We're able to say, hey, here's what we're seeing here, here's what we think this program is providing, this is where the funding is coming from. And I think that's a big part of our role as government to make sure that we're in those spaces, as long as the community is okay with it, and making sure that we're informing people and correcting that misinformation. All right, next slide. So I talked about this last time a little bit, but this gets a lot towards why we do paid messaging on social media, which again is pretty unique for the city as a whole. But there's a really big difference between controlled and autonomous behavior. And so my background is in behavior change and community behavior change. And controlled behavior change works, especially works in the short term, but it doesn't last forever. The second you take away that controlled implement, it starts to go, the behavior change starts to revert back to original. And you can see this when it comes to, especially with traffic safety, when there is no one saying, you have to do this, there's no immediate ticket, there's no, bad accident or something, a bad crash, then if that doesn't happen for a long time, the behavior slips back. And that's why there is such a big push in the traffic safety world to switch toward an autonomous behavior change, which is long term, so it's not going to happen overnight, but it makes it more part of who people are. So it's trying to build up this idea of, I'm a safe person because I think it's the right thing to do, not because I don't want to get sick, and not because I don't want to be in a car collision. And the way that most people have seen a lot of success with this, there's a lot of data out of New Zealand who's done long-term studies on this, as well as in the Netherlands, where they've used humor and things that are positive in people's lives to build that up. So they've done it multiple studies where they do it with more serious, they try to do like fear-based things, and those don't work as well as the humor. So that's kind of where we're taking it from. And again, it's a long term. I still think we need the controlled stuff. We still need traffic enforcement and other things that are still part of this behavior change effort. But I think the autonomous behavior change is an important part of the long term change moving forward. All right, slide. So this is just kind of a snapshot of our data from January to near the end of August. So we are currently across those 6 or 5 platforms. This is not the YouTube, that's a citywide account. So these are across our 5 platforms. We have 14,379 followers as of August 24th. We gained just under 5,345 followers this year, so we're hoping to increase on that. So we're constantly building that. We did 284 posts in that time, so over a post a day across the platforms. And then if you look at the impression numbers, and I'll talk a little bit about impressions. So 3,700,000 impressions. And what an impression is, the platforms kind of use these a little bit differently, but generally it's about a 3-second view or more. So it's not just saying people scroll on, they do stop for a little bit. Obviously, some people look for a lot longer. And those are almost exclusively in the Grand Rapids area. It's about 20% outside of Grand Rapids, 80% are in Grand Rapids city limits, 20% or so are outside of the West Michigan area, and we have about 5% that's in the general state or beyond. So those are real local, and people are looking at our content locally. And then the engagement rate, which is 6.77, which for a completely non-paid account would be still pretty good. Usually looking for around 6% for an account of this size with that many impressions. But for a paid, for advertisements, which we do quite a bit of, that's a really high rate that we're proud of. And engagement's not always positive. It's people saying things like, I don't like this, or I don't want to hear about this, or I've already talked about this, but those still build those conversations I talked about before. And then the metric I'm most proud of this year that we've really gotten up is the shares. So I think sharing is just a way for us to, one, get some validation from the community that they like what we're doing. Usually don't share things you don't like, but maybe some do. But also just helps us kind of build upon this effort to get the message out, which is ultimately the goal. Try to pull away from spending in advertising to build up the follower base, build up the content that is shareable, and allow us to spread this out for as many people as possible. Next one. So just quickly going to talk about some improvements that I want to focus on for these efforts. We've done a lot more video content this summer, thanks to a new staff member who joined who's helping me out, and we've done a lot of testing, just like A/B testing, what sort of content works. It's really new to us, to me especially. So we're gonna, now that we figure out what we think this works best, we're gonna plan some more content out. I'm going to work very hard on making a more comprehensive schedule for this that's a little more strategic. So we've been doing it kind of like on the cuff, the week of, like this is what we want to create, we're going to create it, we're going to put it out. And so we're going to try to get a little bit more planning ahead, so there's a little more strategy instead of with multiple campaigns, serial content and other things like that. And then just continue to work on these goals that we talked about before. That's all I need. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Yes.
Max, first of all, I'm always going to say you've done such a phenomenal job with social media over the last few years. So hats off to you. Thank you for this report. Maybe for the benefit of me and my colleagues as well, is there anything, looking at this data, is there anything that you can use to benchmark the success of this data? Because I think it might be easy for someone to be like, oh, 6.77%, that seems like a low percentage.
Yeah.
But in reality, right, is
So-
that actually good?
So it's a little bit, and I would love to put something together to show you, because it's a little bit different across the board. So it really depends on the type of account, like I said, the follower base. The more followers you get, the engagement rate goes down just by, usually, not always, but like a small, like if you have a local artist with 600 followers, they're going to have 33% engagement rate. But if you have a huge artist across the country, they would never have even though they're really big. So it just goes down the more followers you get. So our engagement rate has pretty much plateaued in that sense, but because we're seeing that growth, we think that's a really good thing. If you look at it purely from an ad account, which we're not quite that, because we're not trying to sell anything, so it's a little bit, an ad account, you're getting 3% engagement, they're delighted. I mean, that's great. If you're at like 1.5 or lower, then you're worried, but when you do, if you look at it from like 6% to 3.7 million, you're at a pretty low. So if you're doing advertising, and our advertising budget for the year is about like $10,000. So if you're looking at that, you're talking about thousands and thousands of people that are engaging with your content. Advertisers see that as a really good thing. But government paid advertising is really in a new place. There's not a ton of comparables there. And so I would think they tend to want a higher engagement rate like we're seeing. But I'd love to put together and maybe just a project update for the next time, just kind of show the other metrics we see across the board. But generally, I think the consensus would be a 6.7 is a very high engagement rate, especially for paid content. But I can put something together to show that. Yeah.
Guys, I'd like to echo my fellow commissioners. Thank you. I'm a big believer in what you're doing. I think you're the right guy for the job, especially for here. And like you said, the internet space is full of misinformation, right? And I think it's important that we have our say as well. So I just want to reaffirm my support for what we do. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
So I have a question related to what you're talking about with, getting to have that conversation with people, which I really appreciate. I think, that is very valuable to be able to, respond to some of the comments and have this back and forth with them. One of my, it's not really a concern, it's just a question. How do you manage comments that are coming from people who don't live in the city, for instance? Like you're mentioning that maybe 20% of our engagement is coming from people who are in the West Michigan area but don't live in the city limits. And I see these comments too online where people are saying like, oh, I don't want to come to Grand Rapids anymore or something like that. So I'm wondering how you manage like feedback that comes from people outside of the city.
Yeah, that's a great question. And sometimes, and a lot of that 20% comes from this, is like we had a post about roundabout education that got shared on a group that was nationwide that really didn't like roundabouts. So we got tons of comments from Texas, in Florida, from all over the place. And my approach is, I generally just assume everyone is coming from a similar place. Like I don't know how to look into the background and see, but you can kind of tell just on the way they're talking about their roundabouts are not the same as ours. So it kind of leads to some. So generally it's the same approach to how we interact with folks, no matter what the questions are. So I think that really is how to do it. But when we create the content, depending on what we're doing, like for the art price content, we really focus that on not being for Grand Rapids residents only, because we know there's a lot of people coming in from outside communities. Same with the commuter stuff, a lot of the safety stuff, when it's around like big events, holidays that are associated with drinking, we spread those out to larger communities and we make sure. But just because a lot of this is somewhat on the fly, I try not to get too much into who I'm talking to and like learning about them, because I don't want to breach their privacy either. So, but if they do mention I'm not from this community, I often use something like, come and visit us, it's great here in Rapids, and our own
And then you block. Anything else?
Quick question. So with the engagement, is there a conversion that you're after that? And if so, what is that?
like a call to action now?
Like what's the call to action after the engagement?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, so when we did the shared mobility affordability program that Trent will talk about in a bit, we wanted people to sign up for a program. So for there, we're sure checking on links, signups. Luckily that back end showed us who signed up from what source, so we were able to really see a big boost of that came from social media. But a lot of it goes back to that intrinsic behavior change, which is long term, which is frustratingly difficult to track, because we're talking about 10-year forward behavior change. So a lot of that comes down to basically just engagement. Like we just want folks to be interacting with it, thinking about it. If they do that, then we think we're on the right path towards that long-term kind of culture change when it comes to these ideas. But yes, specific things like surveys, signups, going to community meetings, we definitely do follow kind of data track to make sure that they're not just engaging, but they're doing the call to action.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is our residential parking policy. Our favorite topic.
Yeah, everybody's favorite topic, and I wish we had the kind of engagement that we saw in the spring. Absolutely appreciate that we have. It's really our conversations best. We feel like there some misconceptions. So I want to get into what we learned from that, or what we're going to go from here, but again, because we have some continued education for people to do about that. We're going to start actively making answer what is this, how did we get here? So about the RPP, this was established in 2013. You all, the Building Art Commission, have the authority to implement. No! Let me get closer. RPP was initially established in 2013. You all, as the local GR Commission, have the authority to administer and implement.
Sorry.
Erin, why don't you try to move it kind of towards the center? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit. A little closer to you. There we go. Colin, you got any suggestions? Why are you keep?
Yeah, you gotta talk a little more, sorry.
You're great.
Can you test it?
Okay, how's this? Great. RPP was established in 2013. You all, as the Mobile GR Commission, have the authority to administer and implement the rules, with the exception of there are rate changes that needs to go before City Commission. We only have a few established RPP zones. It's really University of Belmont Lookout, and then a couple of small portions of Alabama Avenue, Wellgate Avenue, and Lake Drive. In 2017, the Easttown Community Association applied for an RPP zone. Our staff found that only 6 streets qualified at the time, and they ultimately voted against establishment of an RPP zone. So before this spring, that was our sort of most recent public engagement issue. We've taken feedback on the process a few times, made changes to the policy in 2018 and 2021. This included really pivoting to a more data-based approach on the criteria to establish a zone. So before it was resident initiated, sort of voted on, and then moved forward from there. So we started putting parking counts and looking at what qualifies, which currently is 3 or more continuous road segments of over 75% capacity to be considered and discussed among our staff as a zone. Permit types, the residential permit, which is $15 every 6 months. Residential driver permits are issued when they're eligible person per household as well. The caregiver permits, which is if someone needs a caregiver to come on a regular basis, they're particularly eligible. And then guest permits, which we encourage purchased in advance, for 24 hours. No limit in the amount of guest permits that you can purchase. We had, I can technically still have short-term permits that can be purchased by non-residents and were valid for 24 hours. We stopped selling these when we started pivoting to that study of occupancy, and there wasn't a lot of interest, so we haven't actually focused on those non-resident permits or didn't those since that time. To our approval process, which is many, many steps. So initially there's that data review of occupancy that's conducted by our staff and identifying any areas demonstrating transient parking problem as identified previously. If an area is identified, we compile a neighborhood report for proposed zone, as you saw with the 2 proposed zones we brought before the Commissioner Commission, that goes to neighborhood associations as well. If there's interest by the neighborhood association, after bringing it to you as an informational item, it goes before as a recommendation for the GR Commission to vote on. It's passed by the GR Commission, and then we and the GR Commission would make a recommendation to the City Commission for its consideration and a public hearing. At that point, we make a number of different efforts to notify all the impacted residents, outreach efforts, and get into those areas. And then with that public hearing, it goes before City Commission. In part based on feedback from that public hearing, and if approved by the City Commission, it would be implemented at the next half-year point when the zone is administered. So there are a few steps to this process. We were in step 1 when we got the level of engagement that we had, which again, exactly what we want out of the democratic process, but we learned that that process was not perceived and understood to be as preliminary, and it's important for us to have procedures that work for the way that we engage with the public. Two lessons from spring. Maybe members are passionate about parking. Sometimes we refer to this as the third rail. It is, as you all know, as our local GR Commission, a very fascinating, at times very divisive issue of how we think about what the future of our community is, what vibrancy looks like, what convenience looks like, etc. As mentioned in the series of approval, we're not well understood. And that pivot that we did from a resident-initiated approach to a data-driven approach didn't work. You know, and whether that's something we could actually look at with a different data threshold, I think we learned that revisiting the initiation process or the level of interest early on from the neighborhoods and neighborhood associations is an area that we want to lead with. So we didn't quite get it right by going from all resident-initiated to a more sort of technocratic approach. So we got some really good feedback from all of that engagement. I want to revisit that eligibility as well as approval thresholds, and then other topics that came up quite a bit, such as guest passes and the guest pass process. Our next step is going to be really digging into the policy, analyzing it, identifying changes. Some of these are procedural, so allowing for 6 resident vehicles per household to align with the zoning regulations that allow for 6 residents per household. And then updating language from policy to reflect some new virtual permitting software that we're going to have to make the process easier. A lot of this will also be peer evaluation and understanding what are some of the best practices in other communities, what's working well that we can come before we recommend as potential changes to make this a better process. Those include the qualifying criteria for looking at our vehicle zone, what the occupancy and sort of threshold is in addition to the potential resident initiated process, maximum zone size that you would look at, that review process would trigger, best practices for hours of enforcement, what we've seen in other communities, and what works are parking enforcement hours, which types of permits are allowed moving forward, and we can really look at this process, and then creating timelines for implementation around our enrollment periods in the existing process. I would say planning on recommending any price changes based on the level of passion and interest that our permit costs are less than half of the sort of standard in other communities. So usually it's $70, not under $30 per year. That's what I got. I'd love to hear any questions, thoughts, areas we should consider, general feedback that you've heard that I might not have touched on from all the engagement that we got, etc.
Thank you for this presentation. Yeah, I know we got a lot of feedback very strongly from both sides last time this idea came up, so I appreciate the information and adding some of that consideration. And so I have 2 really good questions about just kind of some more like the nuts and bolts thing, and then just one about the general process. How would it impact, say, like the college student population? Because I know a lot of them aren't formal residents of the city; they might be here for 6 months in the summer. Would they be still eligible to be considered a resident for this permit program?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And then the qualifying criteria, I think we had someone mention this at a meeting too, but I know a lot of homes have driveways, but I know not everybody parks in their driveway as intended. So is that something that we could consider if a neighborhood was interested in a program like this to consider, the amount of passes that can be allowed to a certain property based on, if they have a driveway that can fit 2 cars or a back alleyway that they can fit 2 cars in, maybe they don't need a full 6 permits or something like that. So that was just curiosity that came to mind. And then I think just to reiterate, probably the biggest piece of feedback I hear is people feeling like that, and I'm not saying this was the intent when it was brought up the first time, but I think some people feel like the solution was being presented before the problem. And I know we've got soccer stadium coming up and the Hampton project underway. So I think part of it might just be best to, in my opinion, kind of see how some of those projects play out and see if there's a problem that is realized with parking, and if people start becoming frustrated with not finding ample supply immediately around their household, maybe then letting them kind of come to this commission and saying, okay, now we're interested because we see that there is an issue. And at that point, if there is cost associated with it, maybe they'll be more willing to pay that instead of feeling like they're being told, here's a program, here's how much it's going to cost you, kind of phone dependent. So again, I know that wasn't the intent of how it was presented the first time, but I think there were a couple of neighborhood organizations who maybe just misunderstood and kind of conveyed that. But that's at least from the commission level sort of.
Yeah, I think that's really great. I mean, as planners, it's our job to identify the need both now and in the future and try to anticipate having good solutions. But if it's a solution that's based on charging people to park in front of their homes, that potentially responding when they feel a problem rather than asking them to do that now, makes sense. We understand that, and that's where we're also thinking about both resident interest and the data threshold, because if our map lights up that there are a lot of eligible areas where people don't feel like there's a parking problem, then we need to look at what threshold actually makes a difference. And to your point about driveways, that's definitely something that we could look at and consider, trying to do that kind of individualized evaluation at sort of the city level, and what is the actual capacity that we have. May not be something sure we can individually do, but based on what sort of size we're looking at for our PPs, I think that's something we could consider and determine whether that's feasible. But I think, it's also, that becomes very personal, and I think allowing households to have sort of the same access, whether or not they purchase or are renting in a house that has that or not, sort of probably.
Sure, yeah, and I think, at least speaking from my ward's neighborhoods, right now, even if a family or residents choose not to use their driveway, there still is typically pretty ample parking on the street that they use, but just kind of thinking ahead, people wanting to visit Grand Rapids, probably going to incorporate, some of the existing places that they have to put their vehicle and incentivize that in some way, could just be part of the conversation. I have one other question too, it's not in my mind, so I'll let someone else go.
I just can follow up. I think in most cases, one size doesn't fit all. I think part of the misconception at that time was, they thought we were actually going on these passes, permits. But that, having said that, I do think that the initiation of this body or staff in these permits maybe should come from the neighborhood association. So if someone is complaining to us about not being able to park, then we should refer them back to their association and say, when the association comes to us, because there needs to be enough people probably speaking up about the parking by their homes in order for, rather than us saying, we took a point in time data. And so I think it goes to the issue of sort of government telling us what we need to do as opposed to government reacting to what we would like government to do. So that was the misconception, I think, of some of what came out. I think it ended up being a very positive thing for us to step back and look at this program. So I would say that, we can gear towards the neighborhood associations requesting us to do that, as opposed to the other way around. I think it would be more well received.
That's a really good point. And maybe, identify some clarity about what does it mean for us to hear from the neighborhoods. We got a fair amount of comments, from both senior and digital, including members of the Harris Neighborhood Association that really wanted to see this. So determining what does that consensus look like, or what does that communication look like from them, that's sort of a unified request, whether it's a petition or something else. People have to think about which of those details matter and really where people are.
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
Two things. First, I want what Chairman said really resonated, and I think, for many of us, part of this process and understanding it, my understanding of the intent is that Mobile Chair wants to safeguard, right, the parking spots, the on-street parking spots for neighborhoods. It took a while for Belknap to get there to see that. And so continuing to say that and communicate that, but then to walk the walk, all the while, I think is going to be really important. So that was one of the things I thought. The other, and I feel like having been a part of neighborhood associations, we were lucky that we had two very active neighborhood associations. Within the process, I think it's important to have, if you don't work with it, looking at an area that doesn't have an active neighborhood association, making sure there is another way to get feedback, or having something that says, hey, if we're not getting enough engagement, what does it look like for us to go to a different route, if that neighborhood association is in here. It's not all neighborhoods have associations, I live in one myself, so.
Yeah, thanks for that. Into that point, so I think the CIAs, the Order of Employees, might be good to engage with as well, and business associations too, because parking is, we immediately think resident, but the businesses obviously depend on that all the time too for the well-being of their organizations. And Chair, when you made me think about their question, so in the with it, maybe not taking such an all size, one solution fits all type of approach. I know, I moved into Alabama, it's just a single street on the west side that has its own permit program. So as part of the engagement, if our neighborhood associations say are hearing from residents on just certain streets that they wanted, is there a way that, twice a year we can consider adding new streets in as people kind of come around the idea, determine that it's something they're interested in? I know that has some additional administrative challenge probably, but I think that too would just help with letting people gain an interest in this if there is some over time, and instead of, here maybe it's like half and half, let's just put it on the neighborhood type thing. So that's just a thought that came to mind too, if it's a possible version.
Yeah, that's a great thought, and one of the things I'm really looking forward to in digging into this data is how they determine the size of those zones and what that looks like, and whether or not something like an individual street based on interest might be eligible.
Anything else?
It seems to me too, there could be a hybrid of what you're saying, the resident-driven versus the data-driven approach, where we can still collect the data and look at where the street parking is perhaps challenged, and use that information to do outreach with the neighborhood associations. And I think that was part of the process that we already did. So just, really, I think having both avenues open is still probably valuable.
Absolutely, and that's something that our traffic calming folks do really well, where we hear all sorts of requests from people who want people to slow down in their house, and for us being able to also verify that with the data on context of streets are eligible helps us prioritize what that's going to be the most critical intervention for safety in response to COVID.
Anything else? All right, good conversation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Trent Sarah, Mobility Planning at the GR. I am primarily going to be talking about the affordability program that is coming to a close, but wanted to first start with just a snapshot of 2024 ridership so far. So we started out strong in the spring, I think, because of some favorable weather, kind of leveled out into the summer. So comparatively to 2023, you can see a graph there on the right. January through September, we're about 3% down compared to 2023. This is very standard and actually better than the standard compared to other markets around the country. Line is telling us that this is a kind of general trend in shared bike mobility right now around the country, as these fleets are not brand new methods of getting around where they have that big boom. At first, when it's a new thing to try out, and they're sort of steadying out at a place similar to ours, where it's a method of transportation that folks are already counting on and familiar with, and so we're not seeing that initial growth boom anymore. Positively, though, we are seeing that rides are lasting a bit longer and covering a bit more distance than last year. And with the combination of the affordability program and our price happening, September 2024 was our highest ridership month ever, with about 82,000 trips taken in 1 month, which was really great to see. Next slide. So now on to the affordability program. Now this is still ongoing. It's going to be officially ending this Sunday. So the data I have right now goes through September 30, but the follow-up report that I give in the coming months will have all of the data. Just some of the highlights: we had 1,558 new Lime Access signups. To put that into perspective, in an average month before this program, we had about 40 active Lime Access users. So that was a massive spike. About 1,100 of those people that signed up actively used the program during this period, and took a little over 32,000 trips. This bumped us into the top 10 global cities for Lyme Access users and trips, just ahead of New York City and just behind Portland. I just checked yesterday, we are still just behind Portland, Oregon, but surpassing New York City was pretty cool for this program. We set aside $100,000 for it, which was met last week. And since the program is running a little bit longer and Lyme had to put out the end of program communications, they have generously offered to help cover the remaining costs. So probably by the time it ends, it'll be more of a $30,000 cost that they cover for us to finish the program and give riders a good amount of time to know that it's coming to an end. And this is just a heat map image on the right. I know it's a little bit small, but just wanted to show the perspective that these rides are happening all over the city in every neighborhood where micromobility is available. Also, some students out at Calvin using it because it's available on their campus as well. So just wanted to show the widespread use of the program. Next slide. As we launched this, we also put out an intake survey. So this was closed about 2 weeks ago as we knew we were reaching the end of the program. We closed the intake survey so folks didn't get in and get approved and then have the program end right after they complete the survey for us. So just some highlights of what we learned, and again, this will be covered more extensively in a follow-up presentation. 92% of the people had never applied for Lyme Access. Only 35% of them indicated that they had access to their own car or truck, showing the need for shared and extra transportation. The most common uses for it were commuting and social outings. These stayed consistently at the top throughout the whole period that we had the survey open. A lot of people using it for those purposes. 86% of the people that took the survey have an annual income below $50,000, and about 70% of them indicated that their most common burden with transportation and shared mobility is just the cost involved. So incentivizing these rides and covering that cost was a huge benefit for those users. And we had people take the survey all the way from the age of 18 to 73. So I know that most people assume that shared micromobility is for young 20-year-olds to zip around town, but we have people of practically all ages getting plugged into this program and using it, which was great to see. This is a cool heat map of a matrix question that was a part of the survey. I just wanted to show, for people in the last year to sort of recount how often you use these following modes for commuting, for getting to school, for running important errands, for going to the doctor, so on and so forth. I just wanted to highlight how few of the people drove their own vehicle, how few of them took transit regularly, and how many of them were really just walking was the most common way for these folks to get around. So I think this is really a strength of shared micromobility that, in the shorter trip distances, it can not only save people time, it can make it easier and more practical for them to run the errands of their life, when their only other option is to walk. So some of our next steps, Tyler just mentioned that we've been working with McGill University to run this program, and so they have put out a couple smaller pulse surveys, really brief ridership surveys throughout the program, and then they're also in the process right now of doing a program end survey and trying to conduct some interviews with users to get some stories from folks. So we're going to be meeting with them over the next couple months to figure out what they've learned and what they see in the data, the ridership and everything, and I'll be bringing all of that back to present to you all in February. And over the winter and into the spring, we're going to be taking all of that data, the feedback from the survey, what McGill points out and the data that they see, and look at what sort of improvements we can make to the program, and then present that to you all, and hopefully be making some positive changes in the future. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to take any questions. Sure.
Thank you for your support for actually this program. It seems like it was really good success. I was curious on that success piece. Have we done anything? Max, this might be a question for you, but test.
I think it died.
Apologies. That was a little quiet, so thank you again. Are we doing anything to publicize the success of this program?
That is something that Max and I have talked about already. We wanted to kind of wait to put the word out about it until we have all the data put together to really give one big snapshot of how much it was utilized and how positive it was. So absolutely, we will definitely be talking about it, trying to get the word out of how much it was more successful than we thought it would be. We exceeded our budget more quickly
than we anticipated. And that's why I was great that Lon was willing to help us out there the last couple of weeks with riders. But yes, we'll definitely get it to work out possible. Looking forward to see that.
Also, thanks for the day. It's very interesting. And it was good to see too that it was really just a lot of the walking trips. I'd be curious if there's any data that shows where it might be enhancing triangle usage and contribute to that in ways we can maybe work together more. And you know, kind of solve the first mile, last mile for some of these two. So I'd be curious if the data move forward and get at that question.
Yeah, of course. And part of the post surveys, and I apologize, I don't have a picture of some of these. I'll include that in the final presentation. But part of the surveys from the Renewal also asked riders, okay, on this trip that you took yesterday on micromobility, did you use it before or after taking the bus? Did you use it before or after carpooling? To see what sort of like intermodal connectivity is happening in these trips, or if people are strictly just taking a scooter from point A to point B. So I think that, along with some of the heat map data we have and like feedback about how to get around Grand Rapids as part of the survey, I think that'll definitely be useful to look at.
So I want to congratulate you on this program. Like, this is like fantastic success from my viewpoint. So good job there. I mean, my question is, how do we get this to continue, right? How do we build on this and expand on it? I mean, one idea I have, I was looking at your data, people don't even have access to their own bicycle.
Sure.
And I know that the state of Michigan, in their this year's budget, is looking to include an e-bike purchase incentive program. So I'm wondering if that could be something that we also look at as a city to help, defray the cost of purchasing a bike for themselves in addition to a program like this.
Totally, yeah. I think you bring up a great point that this program, while it is a shared micromobility program, I think highlights maybe some other ways that we can help eliminate barriers and eliminate costs for folks, like through a bike or e-bike incentive program, absolutely. What it looks like for the future, I'm not quite sure yet. If it's going to be, we work it into our budget to offer a bit more subsidy to riders to remove more of that cost barrier. Obviously, you can cover 100% of it. Racked up, quite a bit of funds pretty quickly. So I'm not sure if that's possible to do that throughout the entire year. But we're certainly going to be looking at some different models that we can and it's shown that, removing this extra 50% barrier across certainly made a big difference for these folks. So we want to carry forward some of that.
Yes.
Quick question. I might have missed this. So the response to the survey was that anybody in the public that could engage, or was that specific to the people who are eligible for like the affordability component of ridership?
It was open to anybody, but it was made clear in sort of the intro and landing page of the survey that this is an intake for the affordability program for income eligible users.
Okay.
So, in the data, there are maybe 10 or 15 people that had an income over $100,000 probably wouldn't qualify for a program like this. But they still went through the survey and offered their thoughts on shared micromobility and how they get around. So we still got some valuable data from folks across the board. But like I said, the vast majority of them were definitely, income restricted.
Okay, great. Is there, do we have a similar survey, or is there a way to like weight it to reflect like the general populace of the city? It seems like, this was your group of people would be interested in the affordability component. We might not have all the data for that, but I think it'd be interesting to, take into account the citywide demographics that we have to see what people's, transportation looks like and the needs that they have too.
Yes, and we did capture for our survey all the city standard demographic questions. So we do have a good snapshot as well of who these people are, what their age is, what zip code they live in, some of those kind of things that will be part of the final report.
All right. Anything else? The report, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I want to introduce you all to our friend Rick here. He's going to chat. This is such a great segue, what Trent just talked about. And Laura, you just brought up an excellent question. What do we do to help folks get a bike and get some mobility? And Rick is going to talk to you about what he's doing with upcycle bikes. And Rick's group is doing a lot of things that is very similar to what the Mobile GR's role is in looking at transportation equity. And I'm excited to introduce you to Rick and for him to tell the story.
Thanks, Jessica. Thank you everyone for having me here. I've actually learned a lot already. I've never been to one of these before.
before. But my name is Rick Armbruster. I'm the executive director and founder of Upcycle Bikes. I will try to keep this really short because I know over time. Awesome question. Total good lead in. I'm really excited about the Lyme Affordability Program and what that meant. And I know some people that used it. It was a great resource. But there is a challenge in this community. There is a significant and relevant portion of our population that does not have access to affordable transportation options. And Upcycle Bikes, we're only 2 years old, we're very young, we're still small, we're in the startup mode. But we have done a really good job of building a network of community partners, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But these community partners are providing access to social services to residents and community around Grand Rapids. And one of the things that they tell us repeatedly is that one of the biggest barriers to building independence and stability and access to opportunity is a lack of access to affordable transportation. That's where Upcycle Bikes comes in. So we have built a program where we collect used adult bikes, we break them down, clean them, we extensively refurbish them, and then we donate them back out to our partners. And we can skip ahead here to the mission slide. I'm gonna just not go through these in great detail. Next one. Next slide. Thanks. So this is what we do. We collect adult bikes. Emphasis on adult bikes. We're not providing that bike as a toy. We're providing a transportation tool for our community. So we collect these bikes, and just today we've collected our 900th bike this year. We've collected almost 2,000 bikes in our 2 years that we've been in existence. There are so many unused bikes sitting in garages and basements and alleys and stuff out there. So we collect them, we work on them, we've got a team of mechanics and team of volunteers, and we make them functional and safe again. We can go to the next slide, actually, the values. We make them, I'm sorry, the next one after that. We make them functional and safe again, and then we donate them back out. About 90% of the bikes that go out our door are actually donated to one of our partner organizations. Our values are really important to us, so safety is paramount. Like I said, we strip these bikes down and we rebuild them, and we make sure everything is working and is tight. In addition, this year we started offering a helmet and lock with every bike that goes out the door, and a light too. We don't have the funds to purchase lights, but we got a number of them donated. So we give them out to everyone. We try to keep them safe, keep their bikes safe. We make them really clean to offer a sense of dignity. And even though our mission is not focused on environmental responsibility, in 2 years we've saved over 1,900 bikes from landfill. That's pretty cool. And the ones that don't get repurposed, they get recycled appropriately. So we take them to padments and recycle the metal. So we take that very seriously. We'll go to the next slide. So as I said, we've had 900 bikes donated to us this year. We get them from various sources. Individuals know about us now. Our shop is at 800 Monroe, which is right down the street. People are dropping bikes off every single day. We do host bike drives across the city. We get them from the Rapid, we get them from GRPD, we get them from college campuses and apartment complexes. Again, there's a lot out there. So let's make use of that and do exactly what you were saying and provide that resource to someone. Okay, next slide. So we'll refurbish the bikes. We are a small organization. We have 4 part-time employees. Emphasis on part-time. We have 4 part-time employees, but we have some very skilled mechanics that work with us. We have a number of volunteers who put through a training program and they help us get bikes out the door. Okay, we keep going. I mentioned our partners. We are really proud of this. So we started by providing bikes for refugees through Bethany Christian Services in 2022. They were actively seeking bikes to help for transportation needs for the refugees, for Afghan refugees to get from their apartment to their new job placement. The thing snowballed from there. We now have over 30 different organizations across the community that we are providing bikes to. Some get 1 or 2 a month or just a handful a year. Others are getting well over 100 bikes a year from us to support their needs. So these are refugees. They go to individuals that are homeless or have housing instability, people in addiction and mental health programs, domestic abuse victims, parolees, that's been a big one this year. Individuals that have severe financial constraints, right, and need access to opportunity. And the biggest opportunity is getting access to employment, right? We hear this story so many times. I need this bike to go find a job, to maintain a job. And I could go into all kinds of anecdotes about that. But we're really proud of this network that we've created. Today we can be gone. I'm not going to read this, but this is from one of our parolees, or a comment from one of our parolees about how the bike has helped them engage in the community, get access to resources. We do some survey work, although I will say it's not nearly as extensive as what Mobile GR does, because we have a very limited budget. But in 2023, 99% of our bikes went to individuals and households earning less than $25,000 a year. That's a financial constraint. You can see the demographic breakdown. People are using these bikes primarily to get to work, or to access support services, or healthcare, or frankly go to the grocery store, or the laundromat. It's a valuable resource that we've never been providing. 2024 numbers, we're obviously not done. I don't know off the top of my head, but the demographics are looking fairly similar so far. Okay. Moving forward, so we have, as I said, we collected 900 bikes this year. I think we've donated 695 bikes as of yesterday so far. Our goal is 600, so we're going to blow that out of the water for this year. In 2025, we're going to do, in fact, I think there's a goal. I think we upped the goal. You know, we want to refurbish and donate 900 bikes. But we're expanding. We are growing our organization. And one of the things we realize is that bikes need maintenance, right? And we want more of those repair stands around town. We want one right outside our shop too. We want to work on that. But we want to provide service and education to the individuals receiving our bikes. What we don't want is for there to be a flat tire or the brakes come out of alignment. And they say, well, this doesn't work anymore. It's put in the alley. It sits there forever until it rots away, right? We want to keep those functional. So we want to offer some level of service and education to our partners and the clients and the staff. I will mention that we do a small amount of bike sales, maybe 10% or so of the bikes in Lauderdale we do sell proprietary bikes. Somebody donated a bike to us the other day. It's probably worth $2,000. So we're not going to donate that. It's not a big tool to someone, but we will try to sell that and use those funds, right, to support the organization. We can keep going. That might be it, actually. So yeah, how you can help? We would just love it. You spread awareness. We're a young organization. So Upcycle Bikes, upcyclebikes.org is our website. You know, help promote awareness. Also, if you guys know anybody with bikes, we collect bikes and we can work on them all winter long, so that in the spring when the demand picks up, we've got some 100 bikes that are ready to go. And we are really excited to build a relationship with Jessica and local GR, try to find ways in which we can work together to support the needs across the full economic spectrum of our community moving forward. So that's it. With any of you guys have any questions on that, we answer.
Any questions? Great.
That was really complete, right? All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you guys.
Next, October updates.
So in your packet, you've got all of our staff updates. Please take a look at those. I cannot even start, I gave you all an overview of some of our highlighted projects and things today. I can't even tell you all the stuff that we're getting done with the staff that we have. And I'm very proud of them. They work hard every day for the community. And please let us know if you have any questions at any time about anything in that packet. I know it's a lot. And you all are very busy people, so when you do get a chance to take a look at that, we appreciate any questions you have to help you understand better the work that we're doing. And I thank you all for your time.
Any questions?
Did you want to highlight the holiday payments? The holiday payments in the project update?
I do. Okay, she's right. I have two. Jennifer keeps me doing all the things I need to do. I have two things I do want to highlight for you. One is that we love the library, but we got some feedback from y'all last time about how nice it was to be in the commission chambers due to the the audio is a little bit easier to do, our visuals are a little bit better in there, and so starting in December, correct, Max?
Yeah.
In December, we will be there, we're booked out to, so look for that and remember that we'll be there in December, but we'll be here for the month of November, so we'll see you guys here again next week, you all. The other thing is that at City Commission, there was some questions and comments, and recently there was a media article about an $81,000, big conversation about $81,000 at holiday parking revenue. And so the city manager asked me to really let you all know what had happened there. The question was, what happened and what's going on with that. So a couple of years ago, there was brought to the attention that our machines, our Motu app, was taking payments on holiday. And folks wanted to know, why is it doing that? So since then, what we've done, it was sort of an error. And so what we've done is, every year, we send Motu a list of our holiday dates. And then also with that kind of good faith customer service, we have cut off the ability for you to make payments when it's not a enforcement hour. So before 8 a.m. and after 7 p.m., you actually can't use Motu. And then also because we have these new machines out there, you see them, they're not the old coin operated ones. We have a few of those left, but the new, they're called Flowbirds, they're all shiny. Those also have the ability to give you change. Our old ones didn't have that ability. So that's kind of what had happened a few years ago. It's kind of an older story, but it was something that bubbled back up, and I just wanted you all to be aware of what that was. At the time, there was a conversation about trying to reimburse that money that was collected on holidays, and the recommendation was that's not really something that can be done, because not knowing where they came from, you can do it from an app, right? If you have a credit card or something like that, you can do that, but at the time, we still had coin-operated machines that we have no way of knowing whether or not you had, somewhere in there. The other idea is this assumption that folks wanted a refund or not. So there were a couple of little reasons in there, and the suggestion and the conclusion was, don't approach that. Jennifer, would you like to clarify anything? Thanks.
So what you see in your packet actually is the ordinance that pertains to metered parking. So you may or may not know that the ordinance states that anytime you are parked next to a metered space, that you are required to pay the parking meter. The enforcement times just happen to be the hours that the city enforces paid parking, but in reality, you are actually supposed to be paying 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, we just don't enforce it at that time. So there wasn't actually an error in malfeasance for the fact that payments could be accepted on holidays or outside of enforcement time, but we have now programmed it as a courtesy to folks so that the payments won't be accepted.
Okay.
Thanks, Jennifer. Does anyone have any questions about that topic? Go for it.
Yes, thank you. This might have been too, it's okay. Do you remind me of our holidays, about holiday stuff posted, like is that signage? Is the signage or the holiday non-enforcement tax, is that posted or something that we're doing now, or was that in place back then, or I guess just to kind of.
There's not actually signage on the street or at the meter that indicates the holidays that are observed, but the city always sends out a press release as well as post something on the website regarding the holidays that the city will be observing the holiday, that our offices are closed. But now, of course, the pay stations and the Motu app will be programmed to indicate that you don't have to pay, not necessarily which holiday it is.
For sure.
Because there's, what's important is that not every federal holiday is observed by the city. So holidays such as Indigenous Peoples Day, from as Columbus Day, that is not a city observed holiday.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right. Next is the opportunity for public comment, general items. If there's anyone in the audience, please step forward, now is your opportunity. All right, seeing none, any board member comments to finish out our meeting? Yes.
I just wanted to share something that actually is
How
very
proud you
timely.
are of the board chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Said you just want to comment on how proud you are of the board chair.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Anything else?
No, it's actually related to, like all the bike discussion that we've just had, so, this week on Tuesday, I actually participated in a bike audit with, the My Healthy Climate Corps and decommissioning bicyclists. This was in the Crested neighborhood on Plainfield, and so we followed the AARP toolkit for bike audits. And basically, we're walking around the neighborhood looking at, things like the safety of the street, pedestrian signals, bike lanes, stuff like that. And so we're just sharing the results of that.
Nice. Perfect. To further impress you, I walked here today.
That's good. I'm actually proud to see.
I'm searching for confidence.